North of the sacred Ganga stretched the great kingdom of Kosala, made green and fertile by the gentle river Sarayu. Its fields glowed with ripening grain, its groves hummed with birdsong, and its people wanted for nothing. In this blessed land, watered by a river and warmed by good fortune, our story begins. At the heart of Kosala rose Ayodhya, the shining capital raised long ago by Manu of the solar race. Its very name meant the city that no war could conquer. Towers of gold caught the sun, banners streamed from its ramparts, and broad avenues teemed with a joyful, prosperous people. From a jeweled throne ruled King Dasaratha, whose fame had spread through all three worlds. He had fought beside the gods themselves and was counted the equal of Indra and Kuber. Wise, generous, and mighty, he wore his greatness like the calm light of the risen sun. Under his rule, the people of Kosala lived happy, contented, and virtuous. Taxes were light, justice was fair, and punishment was measured to each man's fault. No beggar went unfed, no honest voice went unheard, and the realm rested easy beneath its beloved king. Ayodhya was as strong as it was splendid. Deep moats encircled its walls, and mighty forts guarded every approach. A great army stood ever ready, so that no enemy dared come near. Truly, the city defied all who would subdue it by war. Eight wise ministers stood always at the king's side, ready to counsel and to carry out his will. In their measured debate, the kingdom's affairs were weighed with care, and Dasaratha's splendor shone the brighter for the good men who surrounded him. Great sages guided the throne in matters of the spirit. Vasishtha and Vamdev and other learned, Brahmins taught the dharma, kindled the sacred fires, and performed the rites that kept the kingdom in harmony with heaven. Ayodhya prospered because it honored both wisdom and worship. Yet, amid all this glory, one sorrow shadowed the king's heart. For all his power and fame, Dasaratha had no son to follow him. As the years rolled smoothly by, that single want grew heavier, until the childless king felt a quiet grief no crown could ease. One early summer's day, the king resolved to act. He would perform a great sacrifice to pray the gods for offspring. He summoned his religious masters, laid his longing before them, and on their advice determined to hold the sacred Yaga that might at last bless him with sons. To conduct so mighty a rite, the wise sage Rishasringa was invited, whose purity alone could make the sacrifice bear fruit. Radiant and grave, marked by the small horn upon his brow, he came to Ayodhya to kindle the fire that would answer a king's deepest prayer. The Yaga was a grand affair, and kings and sages from many lands were called to attend. To house so vast a gathering, a whole new camp city sprang up beyond the walls, ready to feed and honor tens of thousands of guests with royal hospitality. Every detail was ordered by the ancient rules. Learned experts chose the ground and raised the sacrificial platform exactly as the Shastras enjoined, measuring and consecrating each post and altar. Nothing was left to chance, for such a sacrifice demanded flawless, painstaking care. When all was ready, the great fire sacrifice began. Priests chanted the deep, rolling verses. Ghee was poured, and the flames leapt hungrily to meet it. Smoke and mantra rose together into the sky, and all Ayodhya held its breath before the sacred blaze. Far above the mortal world, at that very hour, the gods themselves were gathered in council. In the shining courts of heaven, the Devas came before Lord Brahma, the Creator, their bright faces clouded with fear and complaint, seeking help against a terror that mortal and god alike could not withstand. Ravana, king of the demons, torments us beyond bearing. The Devas cried, drunk on the power of Brahma's own boon. The Rakshasa oppressed the three worlds, humbled the gods, and abused even the helpless. You alone are our refuge. Devise some way to end his cruel reign. For Ravana had grown monstrous in his arrogance, secure in the boon that made him unconquerable by gods and demons. He ruled from golden Lanka as a tyrant without fear, insolent and merciless, dreaming even of casting Indra himself down from his heavenly throne. Brahma remembered the boon he had granted. Ravana had asked to be safe from Devas, Asuras, Gandharvas, and every mighty being. But in his pride, he had scorned to name mankind, thinking men too weak to matter. As the Creator revealed this fateful gap, hope kindled among the gods. As one, the gods turned to Lord Vishnu, the Preserver, who reclines upon the coils of the eternal serpent, surrendering themselves wholly to Hari. They poured out their prayer, for they knew that only he could take on flesh and rid the earth of Ravana's shadow. Be born among men, O Lord. The Devas begged and put an end to the demon and all his atrocities. Moved by their plea, Vishnu consented. He would descend into the mortal world and, in the fullness of time, break the tyrant who had thought himself beyond all breaking. Vishnu promised he would come to earth as 4 sons of King Dasaratha, who even then was pouring his prayers into the sacred fire. Thus, the longing of a childless king and the plea of the anxious gods were woven, in that same hour, into a single divine design. Then, at the height of the sacrifice, a wonder appeared. As ghee met flame, out of the roaring fire rose a majestic being, resplendent as the noonday sun, holding in his hands a ball of shining gold. The whole assembly stared in awe at the messenger of the gods. Calling the king by name, the shining figure spoke, "The Devas are pleased with you, Dasaratha, and answer your prayer. Here is payasam sent by the gods. Give it to your queens to drink, and you shall be blessed at last with the sons you have so long desired." With boundless joy, Dasaratha received the golden ball as tenderly as he would cradle a newborn child. His long grief melted away in that instant. The gift of heaven was in his hands, and the future of his royal line shone bright before his brimming eyes. The king carried the divine gift to his 3 queens. To Kausalya he gave half, and half of the rest to Sumitra. Kaikeyi drank a share, and the remainder passed once more to Sumitra. Joyful as beggars stumbling on hidden treasure, the queens drank, and in time, all 3 grew great with the children of destiny. As the seasons turned, joyful news spread through Ayodhya. All 3 queens were with child. The whole city seemed to hold its breath in wonder. Bells rang in the temples, gifts were given to the poor, and the people sensed that something rare and blessed was quietly ripening within their beloved palace. In the quiet of the inner palace, King Dasaratha watched over his queens with tender care. His heart brimming with the joy he had waited a lifetime to feel. The wise sages smiled knowingly, for they sensed the hand of heaven at work. The great descent had begun, and the world awaited the children of destiny.